I'd like to get your opinion on Djokovic. The tennis player, he didn't go to Australia to play the big game because he hadn't had the medicine.
Right.
And I was really impressed by that, actually. Because a lot of people, especially, on Twitter, and you have all these big alpha accounts and whatever, and sort of talk about freedom and all this stuff. But when it came down to it, he was willing to sacrifice his career.
Good for him.
Right.
Yeah.
So how far would you go? Literally over your dead body?
Freedom maximalism. Like, I will stand for it to my death. And I hope that if that comes to pass, that I am at least a shining example for others.
I think it's important. That's what we need more of in society. I think that's actually the problem. A lot of people don't have the courage, don't have the bravery, don't have the strength. I think that's sort of why we see, I believe, the emasculation of men from the media and things like that. So in your opinion, honestly, do you see that there's an agenda being pushed here?
Well, certainly when you're talking about the abolition of private property, I mean, I don't know how you could call that anything but an agenda, because we have private property to some extent in the world. Again, thank God for Bitcoin, the ultimate form of private property. If you want to abolish that, then that is by definition an agenda, right? It's changing a thing that exists. So I don't know, again, back to the government conversation, like how coordinated and intelligent is this versus just people that have just lost their mind, right? If you spend too much time in the ivory tower, you just lose touch with the real world. So maybe they think they're just the Bill Gates or whoever at that level. We don't need these things anymore. I have this new solution. But this is very important too. In Paradise Lost, Milton has this line. He says, "Evil is the knowledge which believes itself complete." So when someone has a model of the world, a mental model of the world that they think is the final answer, right? And they're trying to impose that onto others, that is evil, right? What is good is what people discover, what people naturally move towards through a free market discovery process, right? I have wants, I have felt uneasiness, as Mises says. I go into the world, I engage in voluntary exchange with others to try and solve that. Usually solving a problem I have is also a problem other people have, so I can be an entrepreneur and sell that solution into the marketplace. Others are doing the same. We all cooperate. We increase wealth. We increase human satisfaction. We create civilization. If instead I try to take that mental model and impose it on people, I'm engaging in evil. So the pernicious thing about evil too is that I tend to believe that someone like that may actually think they're doing good, right? He may actually think he's saving the world in his heart of hearts. I don't know, but I could just speculate to think that maybe Klaus Schwab is like, no, we have to do this to save the world. We're going to destroy the world if we don't do this. He may actually think he is a good man doing the right thing and he's being righteous in his action. But that's dangerous, right? That's deceptive. He's being misled by his own idea of imposing a mental model on others rather than letting people discover what's best for them.
So it's all to do with that relationship between the people, the government, and private property. And the way Bitcoin comes into it is because obviously it's decentralized, right? You truly own that. So if we look at a Bitcoin standard and a world where, Bitcoin's been adopted, does that include, let's say, the deed to your house being on the Bitcoin network as an NFT or something like that?
I don't know how, there's a lot of experiments being done where you can execute property transactions and higher layer protocols on the Bitcoin network that would be independent of state authorization. But when it comes to, again, property being the relationship between people and their stuff, so physical people in relation with their physical stuff in the physical world, you're going to need physical security to satisfy that. I think it's going to be a much smaller business overall, basically. Like, it's a business that's blown itself up on fiat When I say, I mean expanded itself excessively on fiat. But when property can be secured more cheaply, and when there's less incentive to violence, like we talked about earlier, the need for physical security should be reduced as well. So the physical security business model should shrink as well.
Do you truly think that we're going to get onto a Bitcoin standard?
I don't know how you stop it. Bitcoin is like this vortex of positive incentives. So I think when you see the game theoretic aspects of it, that everyone's cooperating, competing in the marketplace to try and secure economic value for themselves, we all have an incentive to hold that in a medium that is most resistant to the opinions of others. Right? I want to hold my money, my economic life force, or monetary energy, as Sailor might say. I want to hold that in something that no one else's opinions or behaviors or actions can affect. Right? The most untouchable asset is the most desirous asset.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Bitcoin is. Can't inflate it, can't confiscate it, can't interrupt the network, can't turn it off, can't reverse it, can't stop it. So how does that not become, how is Bitcoin, I can't imagine Bitcoin not having an incredible amount of demand in a world where we're freezing the bank accounts of peaceful protesters, where we're freezing the foreign reserves of Russia when they go to war. Like this pain that people and institutions are going to feel through the security vulnerability of fiat, that it can be shut off, canceled, seized, etc., that's going to push them into and towards this untouchable asset. That's my opinion.
Do you think that the increasing authoritarianism that we're seeing, you mentioned Canada, you mentioned freezing, seizing accounts of Russians and so on, do you think that in a perverse way, that's kind of going to be good for Bitcoin in terms of waking people up?
Pain is information. Literally. That's how organisms adapt, right? They're dealing with some situation in their environment that they're not. If it's a giraffe trying to eat the tree and its neck's not long enough, it's feeling the pain of not getting the food that it wants, and then over many generations its neck gets longer. Or the turtle gets attacked and there's some maybe gap in its shell that one of its predators is exploiting, and then over time the turtle's shell adapts. Like we are informed by pain, and you know this in your own life, right? If you just win and succeed over and over and over, that can lead you astray. Actually, it's those times where you screw up and you learn a lesson the hard way. That's what reforms you, changes your character. That's what working out is, right? You go into the gym and you consciously apply physical adversity to your body to force it to adapt. And working out hurts, right? You can't put yourself in formation without pain. So all of the educational effort that we do, I think it's very important, and I'd love to be a part of it. But sort of paradoxically, government action is the greatest billboard for Bitcoin in the world, and we will never be able to speak louder than that. And so, yes, in my opinion, it's a bit unfortunate, but it is fundamental to reality that people and organisms learn through pain.